Hello fishing friends, this is Matthew with Outfishing 13 bringing you another reel repair and service video. Today, by request, I'm going to be working on the Zebco Roam. This is one of the latest reels that Zebco came out with. It doesn't really replace the 33, but it's a little bit better than your standard 33. Maybe not quite as good as your Zebco 33 Platinum, but still, it's an awesome reel. Let's get started on it and I'll show you how to service it. We're also going to add another ball bearing to it to make it a 4-ball bearing reel. Okay, here's the new Zebco Roam. Shows that it's a 3-ball bearing reel. Has a metal cover. Can hold 110 yards, a 10-pound test. Has a pretty fast gear ratio, 3.6 to 1. So basically the Zebco Roam is very much like a 33. It's a 30 size reel. It has a lot of the same kind of components, the same kind of speed. There's a couple cool features that I really like. One, it has this kind of rubbery feeling on the thumb button. Doesn't have really traction on there, but it's really not needed. Plus it has these soft rubber handles and a big crank for lots of power. It's basically a plastic frame. It does have a metal cover and a metal guide there. And I haven't used it, but it's a great looking reel. Also, make sure you watch the end. I'm going to be sharing details on a giveaway for the Zebco Roam combo. Alright, let's get started. So, like on many of my videos, you're just going to need a few tools. A screwdriver. On this one, you're going to need a small Phillips screwdriver or a small standard screwdriver. Maybe a big screwdriver. You're going to want some reel grease. And today, I'm going to be using my Penn Precision reel grease. You're also going to want some reel oil. This is Lucas Fishing Reel Oil, a great product. I like the way the applicator works. So the Zebco Roam comes apart quite a bit differently than your standard 33. And I'll go into the details. There are a few little tricks here. I've already had this reel apart and learned some of the tricks on it, and there can be some things that are kind of frustrating with it, but overall it's fairly simple to service. There is one thing that you're going to want to pay attention to, and that's the little clicker that's on this drag system. It can be a real challenge, and it's a little part that comes in 3 little pieces, a spring and 2 little brass cups, and a little pin. And if you lose it, you're going to have to replace it. But let me show you what to do with it. So pay attention to all the details on this, and we'll make sure that you can get yours back together. So the first thing I want to do is I want to take off the front cone. It takes just a little tiny turn to the right, to the left, and wiggle it off. Okay, so it does have a metal cover here and a metal guide there, but the rest of it is plastic. When you put it back together, you want to make sure that the drain hole goes down. Okay, like on any Zebco, to take the spinner cone off, you just hold the handle and spin it to the left. Lefty-loosey. This has 2 nice ceramic pickup pins. And one of the features I like about the new Zebco spinner cones is the springs are hidden. So if line ever gets up underneath there, it might get tangled with this, but it's not going to tangle with the springs. Then the next thing we need to do is we need to take off this E-clip right here. So using a small flat screwdriver, you just place that in there and give it a little twist and a little push, and it comes right out. Then it has a stainless steel keyed drag washer and a fiber drag washer. It has 2 of each, so don't worry about getting them mixed up. Then we can take the spool off. Now this plastic ring right here is what protects the string from getting up underneath and inside there, and it can fall off. If it does, it's easy to clip back on. Then we got a oh, there's the other drag washer right there. I'm going to take that one off because we're going to re-lubricate those when we put them back together. Then we got another slotted stainless drag washer. We have this spring washer on the gear, on the drag gear. And then here's where you need to pay attention, and you have to do this step or else you're going to lose this little clicker right here. So what you want to do is you want to take out this little drag gear right here. Okay, it comes out really easy. And then you're going to want to take out this drag wheel right here out the front. So you may need to take a little screwdriver and kind of get it started and pushed out because it's held in there by those springs right there. But you want to make sure you get this out, and then you'll notice my little clicker fell out. And there's 3 little pieces. Looks like they fell down into the body. Okay, that's okay. I'll just have to make sure I'm careful when I take that out so that I don't lose them. But they've fallen down into the body of the... There. Okay, the next thing we want to do is we want to take the handle off. This has got a little cover. You just turn it to the left and then take it out. Then we got our typical handle screw. It's reversible, so you can put the handle on the other side. Take that screw out. Take the handle off. Okay, now we need to take the body off. This can be a little bit tricky, and it kind of stumped me when I first started taking this apart, but there's a little easy procedure that you can do that will get it off. I mean, you try to pry it off, you're like, what's going on here? How do I get this off? Well, you got 2 screws down in here, so you need to undo those 2 screws first. So you can use a Phillips screwdriver for this or a small flat screwdriver. I prefer the little Phillips screwdriver, and just dump those out. Then the next thing we want to do is, see, you get this and you're kind of like, how does this come off? Well, I found a little trick. What you can do is take a flat screwdriver, and you see this slot right there? Take and put your screwdriver right there and just kind of push down and give it just a gentle twist. And turn it over to the other side and do the same thing. Kind of give it a little gentle twist. And then, see, this is where you can't have the drag wheel because there's no clearance on there that I could figure out. So you just kind of take this out. Now, I got my little pieces in there. I don't want to lose them. So, oh, and there's the little spring. And they're stuck to the grease. So let me get those out. So there's the little pin. Find the little spring. There's the spring right there. This is the one thing I do not like about servicing this particular reel is these 3 little parts here. But I'm going to show you a trick to hopefully make this easy to put back together and take apart. And that is to apply a little bit of grease to the cup, this little clicker stem, and the spring. And hopefully that will keep it all in one piece as you take it apart. And maybe even keep it in the hole there so that it doesn't just fall apart on you. Okay. Next we need to take off this keeper right here. Take that off. And then we can take out these 2 bearings. So for some reason, I don't understand why, but this was not a sealed bearing, but it's the same size, and I'm not exactly sure why they would have done that. And then this one on this side is a sealed bearing all the way around. Okay, see that? But I don't think it makes a difference really on which side it would go on, but I would always make sure that this one went back. Now, in most cases, there's a little tiny washer on here, but I didn't see it. Now we can take out this big drive gear. Notice that this does not have an anti-reverse lever on it for anti-reverse and for a clicker. but it has the same sort of anti-reverse pawl or an actuator, and then a pawl that's down in here. So that doesn't get lost, let's take it out. Notice that which way it will go back together. When we put this back together, we'll put some grease on it to hold it in place. Okay, now we can take out the main shaft here. Notice that these gears right here are all metal, although they are made from white metal instead of brass. So I want to reach down and push out that little plastic bushing, just like that. All right, and that's all. Put that back in there and set that aside. So we're going to put this back together in reverse order. So the first thing we want to do is we want to go ahead and put the main shaft in there. And this shaft, when it goes in and out, and you're caulking it, it slides along that bushing. So we want to add just a little bit of oil right here. That's all we need. It also spins around. All right. Next, we want to go ahead and put in the anti-reverse. And to do that, I'm going to use a little bit of grease. This is just a little trick that I have found helps me. So I'm going to put a little bit of grease right on this anti-reverse pawl. On both sides, and it'll help it stick right in there. It goes right down in that slot right there. See that little slot? It goes right down. Okay, make sure it sits all the way down in there just like that. There is a place where it can get stuck up here in another little groove, but that's not where it goes. It doesn't go way up there like that. See that? Okay, so with that put back together, we can put in the main crankshaft, and this little finger right there needs to go right in that little groove right there. Okay, so it's not too hard, you just have to kind of point it down and get that put in there. Now at this point you can actually, when you put the bearings in, let's do that next. Just checking, I'm just kind of puzzled why there's no shim washer on this when there's always been shim washers. So use this to push that in, and then you need to make sure you seat the bearing in. And then you can put the retainer clip in. And then we can put the other bearing in. And make sure that that's seated all the way in. And at this point we can check that anti-reverse. We can go forward. It doesn't seem to be working right, so I didn't get it in there properly. So I need to take it apart again and make sure I got that properly. So I'm just gonna there we go. I can see it's on there now. So let's put these bearings back in and I clip back on there. There we go. See how easy that is to check that? And you can see that anti-reverse pawl kicking in place. Okay, perfect. So if you don't get that back together right, and you don't check it at this point, and you go fishing with it, you're not going to have any anti-reverse seated. Okay. Now at this point, one of the things I want to do is, while I have it apart, we're going to go ahead and service it and get some grease put on those gears. Realistically, you just need a really light coating of grease, because what gets squished out is never going to get back on there again. So with a good quality grease, It will lubricate this the whole season for many uses. The reels that I've seen that have been like the worst reels that I've seen that have had problems look like they've never been serviced before, and they just wear out. And so with that on there now, if you want to take and put the handle on there temporarily and just give it a good crank, that will lubricate the pinion gear too. Okay, this needs some lubrication on it right here. It's already well lubricated, but it's just really simple. Put some lubrication down in there like that, because that's where, when you push on that, that slides in and out each time through the pinion. Okay, and a little drop of oil on the bearings is all that it takes. This one is a shielded bearing, so if you hold it up like that, it will soak right through that shield and you're good. Okay, this next part I'm going to show you is putting on the back cover. And this is probably going to be the trickiest part of this. The easiest way that I found to put this back together is to get it in this position right here. Now, this is smaller on this end, and that's kind of made so it helps lock it into place. But if you get it up to, like, you slide it on here like this, and you get it up here on this position, it just goes in like that. So it looks like this. Okay? It's kind of got a little hinge there, and that's where it kind of sits. And then all you have to do is just take and push it. Get this up here like so, and get it lined up. It has two little pins that help line things up, and you just kind of have to push, and it goes together like that. Okay, at this point you can go ahead and put these screws back in, so we don't forget those. So you just drop those down in there. Use your little Phillips. Okay, now here's what we're going to do to get these three little springs put together. Take and put a little bit of grease on the stem here, a little grease in this cup, and then I'm going to put them together so that I can put them all together in one piece. So a little bit of grease on here, and put my spring on there. Okay, see how that grease will help hold it on there? And then I'm going to put a little bit of grease in the cup. Just like that. And put that spring in there. So that it basically will hold it all together in one piece. See that? Otherwise it'd just be falling apart. Then, turning it like this, so it's face down like this, the little hole is right over on this corner right over here. See, there's where it comes out right there, and it's a clicker for when the drag gets pulled out, and it's also a clicker to hold the drag wheel in place. So it's right over in this little corner there, so all we need to do is take and get a hold of this, get a hold of the stem, kind of get a little twist, and then get it into that hole. Okay, now I got it started there. You can see the stem right there. That little stem right there. And I got the little cap on there. And look, now I can kind of move it around, and it's with that grease in there, it's going to hold it in there. But it's still going to work as a clicker. So now I take and I put my drag wheel back in there, and it just kind of pops in there, and then I can take and put this back here. Now this is just made out of like a zinc alloy or something like that, and it tends to corrode, and so I'm going to protect it with just a little bit of grease. Okay, and then I'm going to put it back in here, and it has to seat all the way down in there flush, so you need to just kind of, there we go. And I'm going to put a little bit of grease on that. Just a tiny bit. Ooh, that was way too much. I'm gonna wipe some of it off. Okay. Okay, next thing we want to do is I want to put on the drag. I want to put a little bit of grease right here. And when you put it back together, you want to put it back together in that position because that's the lowest setting. Just a very light layer. And then this is kind of a wavy spring. This one happens to be cupped, so I want to put the cup facing down. And the next thing we put on is one of these. Now since this is turning and it's metal on metal, I want a very light layer of this grease on here. And I put the key in the keyway here. And then a very light coating of grease. And then put on my first drag washer. Again, a very light coating of grease on this drag washer is all it needs. And then we'll put on and see that clicker still works just fine, even with the grease in there. Then we'll put a light coating of grease on here. Put that on there, and then put on a very light layer of grease. And then this keyed washer. And then this can only go on one way, and it goes on from this direction here, and you can see that it just has grooves on on two sides there. It's not a groove that's all the way around. So get this on here and get this started. And use your screwdriver to get it on there and get it seated all the way. Just like that. And that's on there, so we're good there. Now let's take a look at this right here to put this back on. Now this has little wheels down here that spin around when it goes around here. So one of the things I want to do is I want to go ahead and put a little lubrication here. And then all I'm going to do with this right here is I'm going to put a drop of oil on these hinges right here. That's all. You could take and grease up these, a little bit of grease down here on these little wheels. Then spin this back together. Put the handle on. I'm going to leave the handle on the right side. Snug that down. So we just want to take and push in the button. And turn it on there. Okay, there's the Zebco Roam. Pretty neat little reel, and pretty snazzy looking. I like the design of it. Very simple, very modern, and it's a good looking reel. And it should last you a long time. Thanks for watching, and enjoy the next time you go fishing.